sudden I'm like, why is it getting so dark out there? And I look back, and that's when I saw all the smoke. So I sent a picture to my stepdad. I was
Do
like,
we have
what's
anybody
going
watching?
on?
You do. Hold on. 4.
That's a start.
But ironically, about the same view is what happened years ago when there was the explosion downtown.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. All right.
Anywho.
All right. All right. Welcome to the After Two Beers podcast. I'm Dutch Dalton, joined as always by Kimmy Gabler.
That's me.
Joining us tonight in studio is Mr. John Bodorf of the Black Dog Printing Company.
Hey.
And amongst other things. And thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
Now, this is going to be a very different podcast from After Two Beers, especially for those of you that listen to the show or watch the show outside of our territory or region, I guess. We are experiencing it's an environmental disaster
Yes.
that at this point we still don't know fully what it's going to be. And as a person that has, I guess, a limited but a media platform, I thought, what a great opportunity for me to use this for positive and to ask some questions that maybe other people want to ask.
I think it's great.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're here for. But before we jump into it, it's crazy. I've lived here my whole life, and I got to say, I absolutely love this community. I really do. From the bottom of my heart. I've always chose to live here. I was born and raised here, but even after college and graduating and things, this is where I chose to be. And I'm not a person that's going to just be rah-rah Richmond. I'm also going to point out its flaws at times. But I think in this type of instance, it's less about pointing fingers at who's at fault and just understanding, okay, this is where we are.
Now what?
Now we got to move forward, especially for those that are immediately impacted, that are directly east of where the fire started.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're going to level set. The beauty of going live is it gives us the option to interact live with you as well. So if you're watching us live, feel free to jump into the conversation with us. We'll sure that AJ and Kevin will be monitoring that for us. And so we can go from there. Before we move any further, if you are watching this and you do have issues, there is a Wayne County community helpline that you can reach out to. That phone number is 765-973-9300, and you can reach out to them, I believe, until 11 p.m. And if you're still needing help evacuating, that's the wildest part, is I live in a community that requires thousands of people to evacuate.
It's so insane.
It is. It could happen anywhere. It's unfortunately for us, we have a neighboring state of Ohio that just experienced something very similar to this just a few months ago in East Palestine, Ohio, with the train derailment.
Yeah.
And they're still dealing with the cleanup of that, where they're excavating tens of thousands of yards of contaminated dirt. And I believe that site is smaller than the site that we have.
Really?
Yes. Well, I mean, the place where that fire took place is
whole
enormous.
block.
It was massive.
It's more than a block. It runs from 2nd Street to 5th Street, almost.
Does it really?
Yeah, Northwest 2nd, all the way up to almost Northwest 5th.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's...
The aerial photo of it when it was on fire, I don't know if Kevin took the photo or who. It
Yeah.
was just that. I mean, look at that. That's
Yeah.
insane. Like, we were all busy at work, and I walked out front to check the mail or something like that, and all of a sudden you see that huge black cloud, and it was...
Yeah, so
That was
to bring everybody to speed, again, this is the After Two Beers podcast, but this week we're going to focus exclusively on this just because it gives an opportunity, I think, for others to ask questions. Our buddy Kevin Shook, who, Kevin, it's been really interesting as I watch CBS News, CNN, NBC, I see your name on all the videos, so congratulations to you. But this is really powerful video. And it's for those that aren't watching, or excuse me, that aren't here local, if you look at the bottom of the screen right now, you can see tractor trailers or semis, and you start to realize just how large of a fire this is. And then the smoke that came off of this was so prevalent, was so strong, that it actually showed up in weather radar.
Yeah, the radar picked it up, and when I saw these photos, I was like, "That's a whole city block."
Oh my gosh,
This is like,
It's
it's
insane.
wild. Now,
Like it essentially. So I'm sitting at work and I'm just it. You know how like it feels like the storm's rolling in or whatever. Like everything started like going dark, and I'm like, I turned around, and it wasn't like a storm rolling in, but essentially it was all of that smoke blocking the sun.
yeah, it's. I mean, if you look at the video right now, you can see the shadow that it casts far into the east, and that's the wild part about this is they're finding particulates that are falling out of this and debris that's falling out of this all the way over into Preble County in Ohio. So you can only imagine how far these toxins have passed. And I think it was CBS News I was watching this evening. They showed a satellite image, and it showed that the smoke actually went further southeast of Columbus, Ohio.
Holy smokes!
You know, as it gets into that,
Literally.
Sorry.
Sorry, no pun intended. Honestly,
Well, we're after 2 beers and
Hey.
we've had a couple drinks. So if this is your first time watching the show, to kind of give you an idea of what we do, we have a couple drinks. In our opinion, it takes the filters off and it allows us to be as real as we can be. Tonight, all we're going to do, we're going to be on for a little while to ask some questions that I'm curious about, that I'm assuming that others are going to be curious about, and I'm just pointing them out. And I would love to get answers from this. Our mayor, Dave Snow, has been on our show multiple times. And so one of the things that I want to say before we get started is I want participation from those that are watching, and not just watching it live, as this is available. It will be in the space forever. Is I want to have conversations about it because I think it's important. But what I don't want to do in this setting today is point fingers at whose fault it is, who owned the property, whose material it was, because those people on Sheridan Street at this point don't care about that.
no,
They've got way more important issues than whose fault it was, as we need answers right now about how we take care of ourselves,
absolutely.
right? So that's what I want to do with this, and that's where I want to go. I want to ask questions, I want to present questions, and I want you to feel free to jump in and articulate those as well. I got to say before we get started, and this is a big deal to me, and I want to give a little props to Kevin Shook, who's allowing us to do these in his studio again, but also in your time served as a first responder, but also the first responders that were there. I've never really appreciated first responders as much as I did yesterday, and I'll tell you why. I was out running errands as the fire had started, and I went down into the neighborhood to, I don't know if it was to experience it firsthand or knowing that I have this vehicle and the radio station that I work for, of being able to articulate it. And so I went there. And I was there. I was at the corner of Hunt Street and Southwest I. There was I'm standing there and I'm watching. I'm probably 150 yards from where the fire is, and the smoke is blowing directly over my head. I'm due north of where it was at, and I'm watching these flames jump above the tree line. The tree line is probably 25 feet, and the flames are that high. And now, what I found out later was caused by propane tanks that were on the back of front loaders or forklifts. They were blowing up.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, it startled me. And I'm less than a football field and a half away, and it startles me. And I'm like, holy shit, I need to go. This is not the place for me.
No.
But I'm watching, and these firefighters are standing on the line at the fence, right up next to the fire. They're not actually fighting the fire as much as they were protecting the trees. This tree had become like a line into that residential neighborhood, and they didn't flinch. They just stood there. And I'm like, these guys are badasses.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a special person to stand there. And then the other thing is, we talk about the quality of the air. These guys have to fight it, and gals, they're standing there and just absorbing this constantly, and they're doing it at the benefit of all of us.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I guess I'm at a certain age now, but like those first responders, it's not like this is a small enough town. Those are my friends,
Right.
Like I know these people, and like I talk to them, like I do business with them. I hang out with them, and I couldn't imagine. I didn't want to do it.
Well, and the other
That takes some breaths.
Oh, it does.
Some
And
big
then,
boys.
and I'll give the Richmond Police Department were there as well. And to be, matter of fact, they were basically operating at that point as, they were guiding traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
when
heard
those,
also, there were the smaller propane tanks blew. They missed they got it before there was like a 500
Oh,
gallon
yeah.
or something like that tank that was
Holy crap.
way
Right. and
way
what,
worse.
when those tanks were blowing, the RPD that was working there, at least in the area I was at, they immediately jumped on it, and they weren't rude about it, but they just immediately started backing people up. And I don't know what the long-term effects of that is, but they kept people away from where they needed to be. And it was, to your point, John, it is people that we go to school with, we work with, we hang out with or socialize with, and they're standing there doing this. And then on top of it, I think it also needs to be brought up is that we were supported by surrounding communities, fire departments, as they came in to work at the local fire departments as our firefighters were fighting the fire. So it really is truly where a community comes together to help each other.
And not even just that, but like some of the churches and such opened up for the people that are being evacuated. And then, they were reaching out and businesses and people were bringing water and Gatorade to the fire departments. And,
I know a lot of
everything, just
locals,
trying to do
follow
what
our
they can.
Facebook, for the business and whatnot. So I was also trying to put up, the current information on which church you could shelter at, and whatever information I had, I tried to share, as well as being a smart ass about
Well,
whatever T-shirt.
well, you know what? And to be completely frank with you, I appreciate you being here because I think you bring in a different perspective that, than I would or Kim would. And that's what the whole point of After Two Beers was. The idea of it, as I came up with it, actually it was a great friend of mine, Phil Quinn, and I, as we came up with the idea is that you're sitting around having a couple drinks and you just have a real conversation. And some of the absolute best conversations I've ever had has been sitting at a bar with people that I wouldn't really call strangers, but they're just acquaintances. But if you are with the right people that can carry on a conversation without being shitty with each other.
And then I would get everybody's opinions.
Yeah. So again, thank you if you're watching live. Thank you to Josh, Walter, and Andy. Appreciate you guys as always. And so really all I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some questions. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. I'd love to see if people that are watching have similar questions or if they've got personal stories or anything they'd like to share with us. We'd love to have it. Again, this isn't a typical After Two Beers podcast at all. It's not intended to be, but I also realize that, and I'll talk about this later, about the importance of local media and how I thought to myself, first of all, maybe this is a chance for us to put these 5 years to a positive value in some way. I'm trying to redeem ourselves. Like it's like if he ever came out with a redeeming T-shirt. We're just a more mature version of you on the radio, buddy.
Hey, all it is at the end of the day, some of us are smartasses, and that's our coping mechanism.
And I don't even think mature is the right word. You're just more in their face. I'm just more reserved. I think that's more fair.
Sure.
All right, so here's my first question that I would love to get an answer from someone either here locally or from the EPA that is also here or the Indiana Fire Marshals. But what is really in that smoke?
Oh.
I mean, it is dark. It is, and the only thing I could equate it with as I was driving here, I was thinking about it, was when you have a bonfire at your house and you're cooking hot dogs, right? And the hot dogs come in plastic and the buns come in plastic, and somebody, they'll throw it on the fire.
No, it's normally the person that's the asshole that throws the styrofoam plate on.
Well, either way.
And everybody runs like, oh, you're not supposed to breathe that.
Right. Or
That's our city.
Yeah.
or you don't cook your hot dog over it. It's like, no,
don't
you got to
cook
wait.
your hot dog over that.
But now that's what people are living in.
That's what they've got running through their AC if they still have it on.
It
That's
doesn't,
what,
and it's funny they talk about that too. That only matters as amount of fresh oxygen that's still in your home, because eventually you're going to have to unless you have like a really strong industrial air filter. That shit is coming into your house.
Yeah.
It may not be coming through your heater, but it's coming. You've got to breathe. You don't have an airtight house.
No, I mean, and that's the thing is that the people that live closer to that, I can't even imagine.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about the smell of it.
We'd have to think of like what the repercussions of that's going to be like 5 years down the road. Like,
long-term effects.
yeah, that's not going to be good.
No,
by any means.
that's a great point, and I wanted to bring that up. We'll bring that up later. Is I need to understand from my perspective. This is my home. This is my community, and I can smell this in my driveway.
How much is going to go into our water?
Exactly. And what if I lived just east of it? Should I never plant a garden ever again? Or will I have the biggest corn ever, but I shouldn't eat it? Like, I'm
It'll fight
serious.
you.
Yeah, so that's my first question. What's in the smoke?
A lot of plastics.
Well, I mean, how much of it? And now I saw today where a guy, I don't know their names. We're not an official news broadcast, so I don't have to worry about this. But I don't know. He said there was no carcinogens in it, but there has to be. It just smells like
Yeah, I mean,
cancer.
just look at it. It was insane to look at.
I think they's a liar. Okay.
Oh my!
So
They're
every
an
fire
insurance
has
agent.
carcinogens.
It has to have it, right?
Every
Every
fire has
fire.
carcinogens. Every fire has toxins. Yeah.
Right. And the next thing, and this is alarming as hell to me, is they talked about because of the age of the building that the potential that it contained asbestos.
What?
And this stuff was blowing yesterday all the way over into Preble County, and people have sent pictures on Facebook. This is the one thing I love about social media is it allows everyone to kind of immediately report from their area. So you will see
Some of them did not report truthfully, though.
well,
Oh,
like,
man, alive. Can you, like, if I had $1 for every inaccurate posting of,
of debris in the yards.
not just, no,
I was
not
just
saying
referring to the
in
debris. I was
yards,
just-
but
well,
no.
yeah.
Yeah. Of where it was, what was going on,
Yeah.
all of the stuff,
Oh, you're always going to have that, right?
right?
That's the thing. I don't know. Like I've heard so much about why would anybody want to build a city building now on top of that site? Would you want to work in a building built on that site? Could you
mean-
imagine going to work every day and spending 40 hours a day on top of that site? It's plastic. And I don't think, and I want to say this as a guy that used to work for a company here in town that sold a lot of plastic around copper. Okay. Plastic is it's chemicals in a solid form. It's solid chemicals. And so basically it's sitting and its fire is being put on these chemicals and it is evaporating or it's moving into the air as air vapor. And the thing about it is it's not only dangerous to individuals that smell it or inhale it, it attaches itself to metal. It's corrosive a lot of times. So if you have a car that is due south of that material right now or east, and it's just sitting in it, that stuff is attaching itself to every part of your engine, every part of the interior, the exterior.
Well,
Think
that's-
about as the fire crew like poured water all over all of this. All that runoff is going to go into our system, into the ground. Like
I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of my questions. Where's the runoff going? This
I feel like I'm
straight
watching
to our
tennis.
straight to our drinking water.
Right. Well, because here's the concern I have, and this is there's forecasts of storms coming up, which would produce obviously rain and high winds. But typically, when you have a large fire, when you see forest fires, people root for the rain. It helps put it out. That's because it's burning wood. This is not wood. This is chemical.
This smoke is going into our ecosystem. It's going to be part of the clouds that rain.
Well, I'm just referring to the fact that as the rain comes down, and to John's point, that plastic is going to run somewhere or whatever that chemical that's in that water. And this was the issue they battled in East Palestine is it got into the local creek system.
Yeah, you saw those videos and photos of East Palestine of people poking the water, and it shows like the rainbow oil, like kind of all the chemicals. Like,
And dead fish.
that could be Springwood.
Yep.
That could be Glen Miller.
Well, it goes right into the east fork of the Whitewater River,
Yeah.
which ultimately leads into the Ohio River. And that was the thing they battled in East Palestine. That water ultimately ended up in the Ohio River. And so this is two back-to-back chemical. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. But
I was going to say, there's a lot of buildings that are on top of some of these chemical places that, they were built back before all of the testing was done.
we will have Simpson's fish, Andy. I actually was looking for a meme of that.
What is it, Springfield?
Oh my God. We already do have that down. You can't swim and get Springwood.
Oh no.
No one tells you to eat the fish out of there.
Oh, really?
You know, it's, I mean, it's not like that water
I
source did
wouldn't
not
fish
need
for
it.
a few miles from here. That's for sure.
Man. All right. So here's the other, I want to know, and this is another question, aside from what is really in that smoke. How long, and I don't even know what normal will be, how long before we are back to normal as far as being able to drive down Sheridan Street with my windows down in my car and not be concerned that I'm going to be exposed to something that may cause cancer?
And I have a feeling that there's not anybody that really truthfully knows.
That's scary. That's scary. That's really scary.
It,
All right. So the second
Yeah.
question I have leads into exactly what John just asked, which is where does the water runoff go? It's got to go into storm drains, right?
Yeah, you would think.
And that storm drains pump right into that Whitewater River. So as they've been dumping tens of thousands of gallons, Kevin, you're a firefighter or a one-time firefighter.
Right.
How many tens of thousands of gallons do you think they've used in over a 30-hour period to fight that fire?
Oh, I would put it a whole lot higher than that.
See, and that's
what would be your guess?
Oh man, probably close to 100,000.
So you've got all that water that's pumping into there. It has to go somewhere. And so it's either going to run off into the drains or it's going to soak into the ground, which just means they're going to have to figure out a way to get all that plastic out of that ground. And that's why I don't believe in any conspiracy theory, because it's going to cost so much money to rehabilitate that site. I can't imagine that you'd ever want to build on it.
What did they do with Swain Robinson? Because it
Yeah, I
was
was about to
essentially
bring
some
up
of the
Swain
same type of
Robinson as
thing.
kinda-
But I don't think Swain Robinson was dealing with as much plastics as
No,
this.
it was all oils.
Yeah,
and
there was a big thing when
it
that
was
burned down that the ground was
huge,
like
huge, that-
the ground was awful and
They had the oil test or the soil tested and everything, and
no, it definitely wasn't safe.
Well, we'll leave that for. But that's a great question. That's a
Yeah,
good question.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to get into who paid for that too. The other thing that was really alarming to me, and I don't know that it's been brought up a whole lot, but I did hear someone that was interviewed today. I think it was on CNN that brought it up. Was water quality. John, you brought this up. This smoke is moving now in a northeast direction, based upon where the winds were at today. And that takes that smoke directly over Richmond's reservoir. I want to know, as that smoke is hitting that water, how much of that is being absorbed into that water, and how effective is our current water process to treat
And-
for those types of chemicals?
and would a boil advisory even work?
It might catch fire.
You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, one of those chemicals that's commonly in those plastics fires is cyanide. And so, I mean, think about what people are inhaling now as you drive through the community. It's wild to me. Another one, we talked about the rain. The other experiences, did you guys experience anything as a result of being around the fire yesterday or being within
I
the
started
community?
like my eyes were hurting, my tongue started like feeling like it's got a coating on it. My throat was getting scratchy.
But that's AJ and I. Actually, you stopped by as well. We were outside. Now we were on the north side of Richmond, but we truly experienced. And I'm not that
I could
guy.
smell it, everything.
You know,
We could smell it, but I think I was far enough away.
that you didn't feel any of it.
Not really.
Well, and that's the wild part. And Kevin, if you've got the picture of it showed that the smoke produced such a vast area. If you look in the picture on this,
Radar.
you see that it extends well into Ohio. And so how much water is that going across? As it's going through that air, how much is it attaching to crops, to produce, to animals that are in that area? I mean, just because you're only a half a mile away, you can't. I want to know, am I okay that if I lived in Ohio and that was coming over my head all day yesterday, do I have to worry about anything or not?
We don't know those answers.
That's the questions I think.
Yeah.
I want to hear the answers to these. The other thing was really wild for me, and this is the part that I'm really upset for these people on Sheridan Street, was AJ and I drove down that street yesterday about 5 o'clock, and the reason we drove down it wasn't because I really wanted to. We have a bridge out in the middle of town. Now that's unfortunate, and it has to happen. I'm not anti-bridge repair. It just happens that if I need to go to the south side of Richmond, I have to have a way to get to the south side of
Northwest
Richmond.
5th was blocked, obviously, because
Yes.
of this.
So as I go down Sheridan Street, you could literally see, it looked like the inverse of shadows that you would normally see, where a tree would cast a shadow. The ground where the tree was at was cleaner than the ground where it was just pavement.
Because of all of the debris.
All the stuff that's coming out and all that in the air. And I'm like, if I live in that house and you tell me that in a week that I'm okay to move back in, all that smoke has attached itself inside my vents, inside my furniture, inside my drapes, inside my couch, inside my bedding.
That's the thing, is that I cannot imagine how much cleaning you're going to have to do for that. And how safe is it for you to do the cleaning? Like, are you going to have a hazmat suit on while you're doing the cleaning?
And for people that are outside of the area, and I don't know how much of you will find interest in this, but this is an area of town that these aren't the people that have extra dollars hanging out. These are paycheck to paycheck people, and the moment you take them and say you have to move and go stay in a hotel, and God help you if you can't afford to pay for it, you're just going to stay at home and then
Well, the
smell
fact
that.
of the matter is, within a half mile of that, it's not even just paycheck to paycheck. I mean, like, it's not like it's just, like, it's affecting big businesses, small businesses, every
At
realm
one
of
point, I
life,
heard
it's that.
The police were threatening to arrest anybody that wouldn't leave.
Wouldn't evacuate?
I don't know how accurate that is or how truthful. But
Yeah, I had
there
heard,
was so much information happening, like so fast
Yeah.
as soon as this
And
took off. Like,
and that's, it's so funny because yesterday you see the positives and the negatives immediately of social media.
oh yeah,
So as Gibbler mentioned, there were churches that opened their doors and said, "Hey, if you need to get out of it, come to us." And the
And
beauty,
animal rescues offering to put your animals up if you have to go stay at someplace else, or
that's one of the great beauties of social media. But then also, there's going to be a lot of rumors that are just purely false. Like I'll be honest with you, like that one there, John. I can't imagine that the police had any time to even worry about
no,
that.
of course not.
Their whole thing at this point is, hey, if you want to leave, you should.
yeah.
If you care about, just go have dinner somewhere. Just, get out of here. But
Well, you couldn't even have dinner. They closed all of the restaurants on the east side of town last night.
what? My point being, just get.
But anyway.
You brought up something, and I think is very, very important. Is we talk about all of these people that are going to be displaced that live in that area, and potentially their goods and their items but there's a lot of small businesses that are directly impacted by this. And a good friend of ours, Mike Hirons, that owns the Sheridan Pub, he's closed the last few days. And not only about Mike, it's the people that are supported by the income from those roles. And how do they adjust to this? How long is the Sheridan going to have to be closed?
Who knows?
Because in defense of Mike, even if they come back tomorrow and say, okay, the air quality is at a point where you're okay to be there, I don't want to go sit in there and smell that. It smells horrible.
The closer you get to that, it's absolutely horrible.
Oh, it's horrible. It smells like, if I can give an example of this to the people that are especially outside of this area, this is basically, I want to say almost 3.5, 4 blocks long, okay? And it's probably about 2 blocks wide. And great picture here. This is day 2 of the coverage that Kevin took. And if you notice, this thing is massive. The territory, the amount of land, the footprint of this building in this area. And it was stacked, I believe, 3 to 4 stories high all throughout the entire facility, and all of that is burning. So take one trash bag and make it over the course of 4 or 5 blocks, 30 to 40 feet in the air. And the grounds were covered. Kevin, if you wouldn't mind showing some of the pre-pictures. These are just, this has been a concern.
And that's outside the building.
Yes. So this is...
Imagine what's inside that building.
And this is why the first responders had such a They couldn't drive through there. There's no way to get to it. They had one path in between the two buildings, as far as I understand. And as they started to see that the fire was really spreading, they had to back out. And at that point, I'm assuming, Kevin, you can help me better with this. As a firefighter, you're thinking, all I'm trying to do now is contain it.
Oh yeah, you're just trying to protect your exposures and all the buildings around it, and the houses and the trailers north of it.
And how do you contain from one side, essentially?
Well, and it's a great point, because you're looking at, you had a railroad that is on one side of it, but see, that's the side I was on. And like I said, the firefighters seem to be more concerned with trying to protect the properties of the residents than trying to fight the actual plastic fire, because I think they understood at that point there was nothing they could do.
No, I mean, essentially with the plastic fire, you're limited on what you can do.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I don't know what we need to do here locally. I feel for these small businesses, because these are people that just came out of COVID, especially if you're in a retail situation, much like John is in, but especially for restaurants, bars. Crystal Jackson has the
Pub cuts.
Pub cuts. I mean, there's so many businesses that are impacted by this, that it's not just about needing to go stay at someone else's house. You're losing income. And this is the income that a lot of these people in this community live paycheck to paycheck on. And again, even if insurance is going to reimburse you at some point, these aren't people that can wait 3 months, 4 months for a check.
Well, not even that, but how long is it going to take with all of these people needing the same type of treatment done when, essentially you have maybe 3 companies in this area that'll be able to help
do the cleaning
and stuff.
Yeah,
Can you imagine?
No.
Right now, even just trying to get a car repair after a tree fell on your car a couple weeks ago with the big storm, you're out until July to be able to get your car repaired. Can you imagine how long it's going to take for some of these houses to be rehabilitated? And
and that's the sad part, is because some of those homes, I think it's going to be better just to destroy them.
And some of these people's houses, it was their family home where they grew up in it, and it's like a 2 or 3 generation home even.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up another thing as far as the houses themselves. And the part I'm interested in is not even only those that are affected immediately in that area, but throughout the entire community. How does this affect our property values?
Oh gosh, I haven't even thought about that.
Because think about it, if you are a potential company wanting to come to Richmond, and you see a story like this, right? Now it's of no fault to the people in the community, and that's why I'm here not to point fingers, and I just want to do positive things. But I'm a realist, and I also understand that people are going to be like, so that smoke was going over the reservoir. And then it cascaded.
And that's where my city water is going to be coming from.
And it cascaded into the east side of Richmond, which is basically all of our commerce. And a lot of the higher end homes are even on the east side of Richmond. And this smoke was going right over the top of it. And the part I'm concerned with is I want to know even if I can't smell it, should I be concerned?
Am I supposed to touch the pieces of plastic that fall in your yard?
No. Well, and they have said that.
Yeah.
Don't touch it.
Made a statement about the chunks of, I saw photos of just chunks, massive chunks, the size of bricks.
That's crazy.
And people are holding it. It's don't hold that.
Oh, no, because the concern is it's asbestos.
Yeah.
This building was, it was decades and decades old, and it was massive. And it was such an eyesore anyway. And that's, I don't know, that's the hard part for me is I want to keep this show as positive as possible and try to give a voice to people that want to ask questions, but they don't know how to go about asking them. But there's going to have to be ultimately a lot of answers after this.
Oh.
Because
the complaints against the place have been coming for years.
Yeah. And so at what point whose priority is it? If the owner's not doing it, or the tenant, and that's where yeah. Sure. I don't have
not
a legal
real
team,
sure what's going on.
Can I chime in on this?
Yeah.
No legal
Okay.
team.
So I spoke to a friend that does have some some role, so it's not like official statement. Because my original post, as in my original video, I did title it "City Owned," and then the first chief on scene said it was an above ground landfill. He told all the other units, and it's at the above ground landfill, so that's what I used in quotes and stuff. But then this person reached out to me and explained that this was a process, and the city acquired it from the county acquired it from the business owner, but there was like an agreement there, and I think it was like a tenant situation. But now that since they had the property, there was an agreement for the business owner to be cleaning it up at a higher rate, higher speed, and it hasn't been. That wasn't done. So
Yeah, and and I can't speak to that. I won't speak to that. And if I'm asked in a court, that I never say anything about it. That's all. But thank you for that, Kevin. But that's ultimately what's going to come out of this is, whatever happens, whatever the short-term, long-term effects are, it's going to be a bunch of finger pointing. And at this point, I just want to try to be as helpful as I can be, to try to articulate, I think, what a lot of concerns are for people, and to do it in a manner that, I don't know, this is probably the one time that after 2 beers, if it could be taken back and listened to as a positive, this is the one time I want to. And I actually appreciate you being here, because you're the one that typically is the shit stirrer within the community. And so no, it's a big deal, because and I wish we had a little bit more feedback from people watching. But one of the other things I mentioned with property value decrease is I'm interested to know how much the long-term effects of this is going to be on taxes as an increase, because someone is going to have to pay to clean this up.
Oh, this isn't cheap.
No, and if the company that owned the material, regardless of who owns the land, filed for bankruptcy, as I heard on CBS News, this is a big deal. This is being investigated by people that are outside of this county, and
This is nationwide
Yeah,
news.
we made.
Well, we were watching CBS News before we came in, and the guy that was speaking on from the EPA also mentioned that President Biden had been informed about the situation on their plane trip to Ireland.
Yeah.
So the president heard about Richmond, Indiana.
I mean, I saw an article from the New York Times.
It's just, and Kevin, I'm going to tell you this, buddy, and
Go ahead.
Not to blow your ego up any, but I just
saw
said
his
any
noggin
twice.
growing. His noggin's growing.
You have no idea. Maybe you do, but your video is so powerful to watch such a large plume of smoke. And when you watch that, it doesn't matter where you're located in the world. You see that and you think to yourself, that's God. I mean, that's just,
Well,
it's insane. And then the scariest part about it for me in this entire thing, and I keep going back to this, is it's not wood, it's plastic. These are chemicals.
Right.
This is a large ass chemical fire that is putting stuff into the air that never needed to be in our air.
Well, and I'll be quite honest. So I caught it right at the. This video is probably 15, 20 minutes into the incident since the call came out. But it does give you the cold chills, like when the drone was in there and I was watching it. It did give me the cold chills, and it gave me that feeling that I'm sitting there watching 9/11, because it is a tragedy.
It is. What's interesting about this video, I don't think there's firefighters on scene yet, is there?
I don't see.
I don't see anybody. I mean, that's how.
Battalion chief might be.
I
there.
hate to be this guy. I mean, you didn't start this, did you?
Oh no, you can see him. There's the water. There's the water being streamed.
There's the
but-
after. I don't even want
But
to start
like,
that
if you
rumor.
just think of it, look at that picture, like right there. Those trucks are huge, and the water streams are huge, and that's in comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The magnitude of it was just overwhelming.
Insane.
Can you pause it
looking
right
at your
there?
window and seeing the cloud was just like.
Like I said, it covered the sun. It felt like it
Yeah.
was like a huge storm that rolled in all at once and like made daylight turn to dark.
Kevin, can you pause that video?
No, it's just going to repeat.
Okay. Well,
It
the only thing I wanted to show or mention to our viewers is if you look to the upper or to be to the right now, that would be Northwest 2nd Street. and about where our video is Northwest 5th Street. So
That's 3 blocks.
yeah, and I can't even tell you how wide it is. It's because it's like a triangle shaped piece of land because there's a railroad that runs what now is on the left side of the and this smoke again, if based on the satellite images that it was either, and again I'm going to get this wrong because it was so many national channels, but it showed this smoke was at least visible from satellite imagery southeast of Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this isn't just here, and I don't know how much air it takes to to dissipate it to the point where it's, I don't know what the word safe would be when you look at that, but it's definitely something that I think we should all be concerned with, and that leads me to my 6th thing, which is long-term effects. Clearly we worry about short-term effects is how much the smell, how long is that smell going to be there? How long before people that live in that area can move back into those homes? But what are we looking at as far as long-term medical issues? Especially if you live in that community, if you have respiratory issues, people are still coming out of COVID.
Right? And then they're breathing this stuff.
Yeah, it's a long-term odor pollution. That's going to stink for a long time. It's huge. It's you know how big a Febreze you would need? They just need.
How many air purifiers?
Oh, man. Medical issues. One of the other things I wanted to talk about really is in my limited ability of learning what chemicals that are used in the manufacture of cable, which I'm assuming is a lot of the plastics and things that were probably on site as well. A lot of that material has corrosive effects that it attaches itself, and I kind of touched on this earlier, to metal. And so if you live in a high humid environment, it makes that smoke
stuff's going to be rusty.
corrosive as hell.
Like almost instantly, especially as they're having to use so much water to put this out. All of that is just going to like almost instantly turn to rust.
Well, I'm thinking of houses that are living directly east of that are subjected to that smoke for the next few days. And it's just basically coating everything within that home. Your furnace, your
refrigerator,
your air conditioner,
stove, everything.
All that kind of stuff. If you have aluminum siding, what does that do to aluminum siding? It's
gone.
Yeah, and so those are the types of questions that I don't even know if they have the answers to this. Maybe I'm asking stuff that I shouldn't be at. This is probably where I'll have a mysterious car
We
wreck.
need to have like an expert on here.
Yeah, but you got the T-shirt guy.
Yeah, well, you know what? And I'm getting ready to shift gears a little bit. It is after 2 beers. We've been going at this now for about 45 minutes, and we're going to lighten it up a little bit because we do have the T-shirt guy, and I'm going to lead into you. So here's my one fun question. It's not even a fun question. I want to know, we've all thought it, how many rats and mice and things were on that site?
Did you not see the video from Earlham?
No.
No, was there one?
So Earlham had a drone as well, and it showed a trash panda trying to get out of the building.
I saw
really?
the post about the raccoons. Some girl was looking for the
my
video
God,
on
it broke my heart because I like trash pandas. But yeah, it was a trash panda trying to evacuate from the building and like it had nowhere to go.
Oh, it was screwed. Well, that's the question I have is what happens to all those rodents that are not only do you have to worry about smelling that now, you're going to have rats the size of small dogs running through that neighborhood.
They're going to go next door to the next.
Right?
Yeah. That's your new.
Oh my God, I'm telling you. Now, it wouldn't be if John, if we didn't bring you on here and didn't at least let you share some of your designs, that you've got T-shirts that you've come up with for this.
Sure. I mean, that's what we kind of have gotten known for, was being fast with like a response to the things that happen in Richmond.
I gotta say though, the T-shirts that you designed for the lady flashing at the Newcastle liquor store were amazing.
Oh, those are perfect.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've got pictures of those or not. We can absolutely share those on social media. But one of the last thing, and I want to talk about this, and I want to give a little props here to some local media. So first of all, the one thing that was really interesting to me yesterday is you start to realize that outside of the actual fire itself, you start to realize that you need certain things within a community that you just don't have today that you would typically have in the past. And so one of the things that I work for a local radio station, 1017 The Point here in Richmond, and I'm going to give credit to what would be considered a competitor of mine on that side, but I'm not working for them right now, so I'll be happy to say this. Rick Duncan and his team at 1013 had gone live yesterday for a number of hours, and we're keeping people up to date with current events. And now, obviously, as an individual, you don't need to listen to that for multiple hours. But just having that available was really well done.
Yeah.
And my kudos to Rick Duncan and his team. Dave Paxson at 1017 and I went live for a little bit and to discuss it. And but I just want to say that there's such an important role for local media, especially in this, especially in the months coming of what are the long-term effects. That's when you need a local newspaper. So much props to Western Wayne News. I know they do a lot. The Palladium item was purchased by Jeanette, so that kind of changed thing. Not Jeanette Records, but Jeanette Publications. But social.
But yeah, there's other people that aren't on Facebook to try to get updated on everything that's going on, and that's why the news has been very good. And then also, radio, obviously. Just making sure that everybody has their platform to be able to hear what's the update.
Right. And then there's tons of Facebook pages that if you go to, and it's here we are, we're on Facebook. But again, the value of having a 1017, a 96.1, a 1013, a 1490 is, as much as we're evolving into just canned everything, Spotify and Sirius XM, there's such a value of having someone that's local that in moments like this, if you didn't have a local radio station,
if your internet was down or
any
anything.
of that, well, a lot of people, especially we live in a community that has a lot of elderly that maybe they're not the most social savvy, but it is a common response for people in a time of emergency to flip that radio on.
Yeah. And
I think there's a value to that. So, much props to all the radio stations here locally. I don't think it's funny. Like, maybe now I sound like I'm pandering to my job, but it's not my real job. It's a job, but you guys know what I mean. And but I see a value in it. You need people like that. And I love the elements of social media that came into play on this because this isn't over.
No, it's far from over.
We're going to deal with this for months, years, potentially, and that's scary.
That's the scary part is, those people that live next to it in that vicinity 5 years from now, that's who's going to really feel it.
Yeah.
And that's where everything's going to take place.
Oh, yeah. And small businesses that are directly east of it. And if you look at the Depot District, which is just east of this, that's an area we've put a lot of...
they just have put a lot of money into and rebuilding. And
the bakery is another one. It's a beautiful old building.
Yeah.
And it's just right in the line of that. And, I don't think it's probably an issue, but maybe it is because we don't know what the cone effect is of that smoke. But the hospital's not that far northeast of where all this was. And then on top of it, like I said, is you're dealing with people with respiratory issues. And if you look at that smoke that's on that screen, I have to believe that it's not just that smoke area that was affected. That there's particulates in that air that I'm sure we don't see that are being spread for miles. And
not even that, but they've worked on it overnight last night and then this morning, and the dew set in and everything else. The temperature dropped some overnight and the smoke was lower.
The only thing,
so I feel like it probably even hit neighborhoods that they didn't possibly think that it would have.
The last question I would ask, and then I'll open it up to you guys. I know I've been hogging all this, but I put a lot of thought into this today, and I wanted this to be a little bit different. It's not a little; it's way different than anything we've ever done before.
Where's my giblets?
Right? I didn't talk about people exposing themselves or nothing on this show, and
yet.
Right,
I'm
it's early.
I'm joking.
Well, if we open the windows, maybe the fumes will get us. But the thing that I'm more interested in, this is arguably the most important question, because no one in this room is going to make it out alive, right? So this is our life. But there are people that are going to come after us, and generation, hopefully. And the question I would have is, no one in this community was surprised that this happened. No one.
I think
Not
that's fair.
Not from the mayor, not
That's
from
fair.
the firefighters, not from the.
I think everybody was aware that it was a bad situation.
Right.
That it wasn't if it could happen. It was when
Right.
it was going to happen.
Yeah, and just yesterday you heard that in the press conferences. And more importantly, this had been identified as an issue for a number of years, not just last week, not 6 months ago.
No.
So
And
my-
it wasn't even just 2 years ago. It was prior to
I
2
saw.
years
I had
ago.
friends sharing stuff from 2018.
Yeah. So that's my question. Not just here locally, but at an executive level, all the way down. As a citizen of this country, I love this country. I love this community, and I support my local politicians. If I don't like them, I can vote and change that. That's the beauty of where we're at, okay? But you also have to trust that whoever's in office takes care of you. And the only thing I want to know is not only just here in Wayne County, not just in Richmond, Indiana, but if everyone recognizes that there's a problem on both sides,
Vote.
well, why didn't it get taken care of? And more importantly, because I don't worry about what's in the past, how do we make sure not necessarily a fire of this magnitude, but anything else doesn't happen again? If you know it's a problem and I know it's a problem and he knows it's a problem and she knows it's a problem, why wasn't it fixed? And more importantly, how do we make sure it doesn't happen again?
I agree.
Because that's the element to this that, if we get it cleaned up, and God bless that, or whatever you believe in, if everybody in that community are going to be fine, the houses are fine, the smell magically goes away, and it's like it never happened, and the water is actually somehow cleaner as a result. Like everything's perfect. We still have to answer the ultimate question, which is, why did this happen in the first place?
Agreed.
And how do you prevent it? Because just like East Palestine,
Even if
Ohio,
it never happened again, this has affected so many people just in 2 days. Let alone.
And that's the thing. It's we had 2,000 people in this community that were evacuated. But I'm going to tell you right now, this impacted hundreds of thousands of people if they don't even realize it yet.
Schools are out
Yeah,
again tomorrow.
I don't even think we've seen it yet.
No.
No.
No, you figure that smoke was just it went to east and west central Ohio. This is not just something that is
And it's not even smoke. Like debris has even gone that far.
Yeah.
So
Well,
How far is this going
Yeah.
to spread over the fields? I mean, like
this is
the
a very
heartland of,
rural
like,
area.
Yeah, we farm.
What-
all that soil
And-
is going to be contaminated at some point. It has to be, right?
right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, we're supposed to get rain in the next few days. It's still melting.
So all the chemicals are going to go into the fields that we grow the corn, and that corn's going to be fed to the
And
cattle.
the animals eat. Yeah.
Like this is a huge chain.
It's a
of
circular
events.
deal,
It's-
right? It really is. And that's the thing. When you talk about plastics, they're just solid chemicals.
They don't go.
They're
away.
not natural. They're not. They weren't born here. We made them, and now we have to figure out because we didn't take care of it. And that's the alarming part to me, is that it was able to happen in a residential area. If it were on the outskirts of town, people would be like, well, maybe it was easy to ignore. People live a half a block from this, and now they have to go back and live their lives. I just don't know how people are going to do it. I just don't. And I feel for them more than
I
you'll
couldn't
ever
imagine
understand.
how they feel when they're given the okay, and they're like, I know it's not okay.
Right? Can I ask you, and I want you to be sincerely.
Even if they have insurance, some of these people may not be able to pay their deductible.
I'm going to be straight up 100% honest with you right now. If someone came to me and said, Dalton, we got a deal for you. We're going to give you a house on Sheridan Street. Here's the beauty. It's free. You don't have to pay a mortgage ever again. And I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I wouldn't. it honestly, when you go into a mask, like, or go into a facility, I've gone into a ton of industrial facilities in my life. And there are times where they make you wear a mask or a respirator to go into certain areas. That's the same stuff that was flying over people's houses. That's scary.
And through their houses.
And attaching itself to the house. And their upholstery and their carpet and their walls and their
Roofs.
oh, it's
and
just crazy.
All of the things.
Anyway, I want to give the number again one more time. And amen. You want to read that one for us? That's
It always seems to come to the mighty dollar of who's writing the check. A lot of resources used.
amen. Amen to that. It's going to be scary. It's going to be we're going to have to pull together on this. Like I mentioned, you're going to have a lot of displaced families. I don't know how they go back to school in certain areas. Fairview is right there. I don't know how Fairview could go back really relatively soon. There was another school that I just saw. Dennis Middle School is right within the evacuation area. So I don't know, how long before you send everybody back to school. And we're going to have to pull together on this. Again, if you need help, call the Wayne County Community Helpline. It's 765-973-9300. And there's tons of resources online. And if you've got any questions, make sure you go out and check social media. The local community seems to be doing a pretty good job of communicating with itself and recommend, like John, you had mentioned, you had shared some things. We'll make sure to share some things.
We just need to come together.
Yeah, we're in for this for the long haul. In a week from now, actually probably by Friday, all those national cameras will be gone.
But this is our town.
Yeah.
This is our community. And
Yeah.
Yes.
like we're here because we love it, and I feel like if I have a platform and I don't use it to help.
That's
Yeah.
my whole goal is, like I said, Dave Snow's been on the show before, and he's been super nice to us. And I don't know the owner of the facility, but I'm not going to pass any disparaging comments on to him either. But
It's done.
It is.
And we just have to move on from here, and we've got to move on together.
absolutely, I don't think at this point finger pointing is what we need to do. And I'll say this again: I have a not that I didn't have respect before, but such a newfound respect for firefighters and the police and EMTs. Watching yesterday, their ability to just take over that situation. It's
And
really.
they probably had not dealt with anything that massive before.
There's a
honestly.
reason we're the lead story on CNN. It's
Yeah.
because
It's massive. It's huge.
Kevin never, as a firefighter or someone that prepped for it, or our friend Chris O'Neill was a firefighter as well. They don't prep for that. I mean, you got to, but who would have ever imagined such a massive fire in a community this size? No. It just doesn't happen. The last large fire I remember of any magnitude like this was the Amazon facility that caught fire in, was it?
It's around Greenfield area, right?
It's over by the airport.
Oh, yeah. Greenwood.
No,
No.
I can't think of it now. I used to fly more.
New York?
It's on
I
the
don't know.
east side,
Yes.
or the west side rather. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a massive fire, and I can't imagine putting myself in the line of that, like what I saw yesterday. And more importantly, respirators or not, they're inhaling all that for multiple hours, and I have a newfound respect for them. And again, local media. So much local media is needed. Make sure you support your local media. All right, John, is there anything you want to say before we go? I feel like I've blabbed enough.
No. I mean, what you said is way better than anything I could have said about this. This is our town too, and we love it. And I think it's up to all of us to do whatever we can to kind of help our neighbors out. There's going to be people that can't go home.
Right.
There's going to be people that have lost everything.
Sad.
Yeah.
It really is. And to give your point, some of these are their homes from their childhood. And just because they lived east of it That's all it was.
Yeah.
It's just placement. It just happened to
Placement.
be where your grandparents maybe put a house down. My grandparents, we grew up on Northwest East Street, so we are literally a block. You got that pee dance.
I got the PB dance.
I think that's probably our cue anyway. Thanks again to John Gibler. Thank you
Yes,
as
thank
always.
you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, so much great stuff you took. I've got to think, even from the ability for the investigators to look into it, the video definitely provides value.
I loved every time I turned on the TV, it would say his name
Yes.
at the top banner, and I would cheer.
Yeah.
I know that.
It was interesting, and like I enjoyed networking with networks, I guess I could say. But I mean, it's still a tragic event and everything else.
It is. It is because it's not. It's you want to always see your community in positive light,
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of times it's the blood that leads. So it is what it is. We're gonna go so Gibler can go to the restroom. But thank you again for anyone that was watching, or if you happen to catch this on a tape. Thank you again. Thank you again to our first responders. Thank you again to local media. And my heart is real, and I mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I feel so bad for all those people that are in that community that are directly east of this place. And if there's anything that we can do locally, as far as, I don't know if it's a GoFundMe or a fundraiser, or there's got to be something that's going to be needed to clean homes, to keep people back in them. And I think we should all figure out what we can do. So, all right. Gibler, we say this at the end of every show. It's the most important thing we say, even on a show like this, and that is, if you see someone that you think is struggling, they probably are, especially at a time like this, make sure you reach out to them. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them if they need anything. Just let them know you care about them. Let them know you appreciate them. You'd be surprised how something so small might mean the absolute world to somebody. So think of your neighbor. Now's time more important than ever. But Gibler, we will be back next week in our standard format.
You get my giblets again.
And then
After 2 beers.
thank you all.